welcome back. Wasn't that a great documentary about who put Bella in the witch elm? So I wonder if you've come up with any conclusions as to what Jane was investigating. And if you have, I hope you put them in the comments back on Facebook. But now I've been excited for this all day because I am going to be speaking to a very good friend of mine who I happened to visit just before New Year's of last year and spent New Year's Eve with him and his family. And I had the most amazing time ever. Now, this person is the co-owner of Detroit Paranormal Expeditions and have been no stranger to being on TV. And his name is Todd Bonner. So hello.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I think it's been so long, isn't it, since we've kind of caught up and said hi.
It's been a crazy time since the last time you were here till now. Everything's kind of changed. The world's in chaos a little bit.
I know, and I'm so glad I got over when I did because, you know, it was a great time. So just thank you again to you and your family for hosting me. It was a great time. And basically, you know, we kind of did an awful lot of things whilst I was there. Obviously, you were working, and your mom, bless her, she took me to the Henry Ford Museum.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those places that when you look from the outside, it's just I thought it was quite small, but it isn't, is it?
No, when you get inside, you can tell because it's wide open, and then you see all the exhibits they have. And trust me, I think it's haunted, and we've tried to get in there numerous times, but they just won't let us do it. But I think it's haunted just because of the artifacts, and you know how it is when you have artifacts at old places, antique shops even. You might even bring something home, and it could be haunted possibly.
Well, it's funny you should say that because me and your mom went to the Henry Ford Museum, didn't we? And we were walking around, and she was talking to me about all of the aeroplanes and things like that. And it was really strange because here in the UK, we don't do an awful lot of the American history. So obviously I knew that Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated. However, I wasn't aware that the chair that he was actually assassinated in is actually housed at the Henry Ford Museum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there, and it's still, obviously, when you saw it, you can still see the blood stain. So it's kind of a very grim reminder of kind of America's past, how it was kind of violent. But it's also kind of cool to have that here in Michigan. And that's another reason why I think the museum's haunted, just for artifacts like that. You know, it says a lot about the museum itself.
Yeah. But what was great about that experience is as I was stood at the chair, I remember just speaking to your mum and I said, I feel really drunk. And she actually said to me, what? And I said, I don't know. I said, I feel really woozy and a bit drunk. And then all of a sudden I had this searing pain in my leg. And I just said, oh, my leg's really hurting. And she went, well, you know how he was shot, don't you? And I said, no, I don't. And your mom explained what had happened to me. And this was unbelievable. She actually said that he was shot in a theatre from behind, but the person who shot him, and I can't remember his name for the life in me,
John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah, was drunk at the time, and he actually jumped over the balcony, didn't he?
Yes,
and broke his leg. So that to me was just like, wow, I've never experienced anything like that before. So that kind of, I think that wowed your mum a little bit as well.
No, you know, my mom's a big supporter. I don't know if she totally believes or she gets scared about the stuff that we do, but she's been a huge supporter. And she told me about that incident. You did too. And I think that's great that you were able to probably channel some of that energy just off the chair and feel it for yourself, kind of how it felt when that all happened.
Yeah, it was just so surreal and so strange. And I think when we sat down, it was only kind of when I'd had that validation, I was like, oh, that's a bit strange. But I want to come on to the reason why I went to Detroit in the first place, and that is the Eloise Asylum. Now, I do know that place holds a huge part of your, you know, you love it, don't you? As much as I love it anyway.
Yeah, you know, Jeff and I and the rest of the group are lucky enough to get in there back in August of 2018. So we were the first group ever to investigate the asylum. And it's always been, I mean, I grew up in this area. So even as a kid, it was always there. You know what I mean? You drive by, you'd see it. And then I had my first paranormal experience in there when I was in high school. We had snuck into the building. There was more buildings. You saw what was left, but there was, back in the late 80s, there was probably 40 buildings still up, and they were bigger than the building that we went into. So I heard a disembodied voice, and I kind of pushed me on the journey I'm on now. Back in those days, there was no TV shows. There was no interviews like we're doing now. People would think that we're crazy if we actually brought that up. My father was a police officer, and I was raised in a Catholic household, Catholic school, so it was kind of taboo to talk about it. But now I think it's so mainstream, and you see all these people doing this, and all this evidence that you're getting, shadow figure pictures and audio and videos now. I think it's just amazing, and it keeps just pushing us to another level. And it validates just the experience you had at Henry Ford. You had no idea of what happened, but you're able to validate it through your own channeling of what had happened to Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm. And the beauty of it is with the Eloise is there's so many layers that you need to peel back. And I just want to touch upon the historic village, because the historic village actually details all of those outbuildings as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, the museum, the Eloise Museum at the Westland Historic Village, has a lot of the artifacts that were actually at Eloise, the compound. At its peak, it had 78 buildings. It was on 902 acres. Mm-hmm. It was the largest psychiatric facility in the United States. What's left now is very little, unfortunately. But the museum was able to gather a lot of, you saw like they had shoes and doctors' equipment, and the phone, the operators would use the phone, the old school style where you plug them in. I haven't seen anything like that ever in my life till I saw that face to face. And the portraits of Eloise that are there. But it's always been, I feel, haunted because of the energy that's attached to all of those items, from patients to staff. And you got to look firsthand of everything that was used there. Some of it was kind of barbaric back in the days of psychiatric treatment. Obviously, it's not like that now. It's more pills and outpatient stuff. But, Eloise had 10,000 patients at one time, 2,000 staff. So it was massive. It had its own zip code, post office, fire station, police station, bakery, farm. It was a self-contained city. And that's how a lot of the asylums, at least in America, operated. Up until the late 80s, when they started losing funding and it closed down, there's not very many asylums anywhere in the United States that are operational.
Mm-hmm. It was actually so surreal to look at and to see on the actual architectural board that you've got there, just how big that place actually was. Now, originally, it wasn't called Eloise, was it?
No, it was actually started as a poor farm or poorhouse. And what that would be considered as today, at least in America, would be like a, there was no social services like welfare or any help like they have now for people. So if you had nowhere to go, if you're an orphan, you're a widow, you would come to this place and work on the farm to earn your keep. And it kept growing and growing, especially in the early 1900s. And then the tuberculosis outbreak happened in 1911, and they built a TB sanitarium. And then they built their first hospital. They just kept expanding and expanding. It had a general hospital. Wayne County General Hospital was also there. So a lot of people were born there. And it says around the birth certificate, Eloise Hospital. So that was, people bring that up to me all the time. I think that's kind of fascinating. It's still kind of strange at the same time. You were born in a psychiatric hospital, but they did have a section for normal hospital care. But it was just known for its psychiatric care. They had a men's ward, women's ward, kids ward. It was just a massive complex.
And the Eloise itself, how did that name come about?
Eloise is named after the first postmaster of Detroit's daughter. They had submitted a bunch of names, and I guess you have to go through the federal government to allow these names to go through. So finally, they kept getting denied. So they said, let's just name it after the postmaster's daughter, whose name was Eloise. And they sent it into the federal government. They approved it, and the rest is history. And Eloise herself actually died in 1985 or 4, I believe. So right when the hospital was starting to wind down, she had passed away. It was just kind of a weird coincidence. But no, I love it. And you actually were able to witness a little bit of the paranormal activity while you were there. And it's always had a lot of activity, a lot of shadow figures. And I've actually had moments when I've been scared there and actually took off out of the building one time, because the energy is so strong, especially when we first went in there. And you got to think there's probably over 20,000 deaths. There's a cemetery with 7,100 unmarked graves across the street. And that's only a portion of the people that had died over the 130 years it was operational. Yeah. But yeah, you could feel the energy. It's a lot of sad energy, I think, sometimes too. But that's just the way it was back in those days. That's where people would go. You would go there if you were an alcoholic, if you stole stuff. Kids were taken there for truancy. it was just such a weird time that it seems outrageous that people that, had an alcohol problem, or I even read an article about a woman that was put there because she had a debt. She had accumulated too much debt. She was a teacher. Her brother had put her in there, and it took a year for the judges to finally let her come out. But now, obviously, that would never happen. It's just weird to see how the history of things change and why some people are even in there. I think if you were in there, you saw what it looks like. I would go crazy myself, even if I was normal, being locked in that place with people that had mental illness.
Yeah, and obviously when we saw it, it was very, very different to how it used to look. Back in the day, it looked very grand, didn't it? Very plush. And now it just looks like a shadow of its former self. It's quite abandoned, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's sad to see, because that hospital had beautiful flowers and gardens all around, and they pioneered music therapy, where they'd have the patients either play music or listen to music, and they had pageants and stuff for the patients. There's an outside amphitheater that's all gone. They had a movie theater there that's all gone now. But they try to do the best they can as they learned as they went, even though like lobotomies and electroshock therapy and things like those were pretty barbaric. That was standard procedures for doctors back in those days. It just shows you how advanced medicine has gone in the last 50, 60 years, because they were still doing lobotomies 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Yeah. And it's sad, really, isn't it? It's frightening to know that was still happening just a short time ago.
It is. And I've saw videos and read about how that works. And basically when you had that done, you weren't, they would do it for patients that were out of control, with different disorders. But after that, you were pretty much a zombie. You just wandered around, you had no emotion, and it really changed people. And I guess that's how they thought they cured you, by taking a little bit part of your brain out and affecting your frontal lobe. It's sad and it's tragic, really. And I think that's what makes Eloise have so much, you felt it too, like pain and sorrow. Yeah. We were only one small building out of the whole complex, but I even think the property and the land that it sits on still holds a lot of that sad energy still there.
Well, it's really, let's touch upon some of the paranormal activity that we experienced as we were there. I remember mentioning to you before I actually boarded the plane, because I'd lost my passport because I'd just moved house. And I remember saying to you, I keep having this dream about this doorway at the bottom, the walls orange and blue. And I said, and I don't know why, but then there's a doorway at the top and there's a window. And I said, this doesn't strike me as being somewhere that should have pride of place in a hospital. And I couldn't understand it for the life in me. And I remember having this conversation with you, but once we got to the Eloise, everything made perfect sense. And as you mentioned, you never told me anything about the Eloise at all, because you knew about my visit and you knew that I wanted to see it. So I read nothing about it. I absolutely, I know you'd done a TV style presentation about the Eloise, but I didn't read any of them. Now, what I did do is I went in, because we actually went to the building, didn't we? And we saw what we thought somebody had intruded in the building. So you and a friend of yours went off, and you left me with Joe Posey and those guys. And I think there was about 6 of us, and Phil as well, who was the photographer, because we were going to have a photo shoot there. And I just remember doing a medium walk round, and I was telling Joe exactly what I was feeling. I said, he's not a very nice character, this person. He wants to scratch you. He's laughing at me, telling me he wants to scare me, but he wasn't scaring me at the time. Now, this is the best probably validation that I could ever have imagined happen. And it was probably more terrifying than what Drakelow Tunnels was. Now, I remember getting to the bottom of the Eloise and having the ceramic room where all the patients used to do all of the pottery work. Was just to the right. There was a double door that was chained just to my left, and there was another door directly in front of me. But as I turned and looked through these double doors, I remember saying to Phil, did you just see that? And there was an outline of a man inside the window. And I said, I've just seen him. I said, he stood behind me. And as I turned around, there was just a block wall. There would have been nothing there at all. And then we were just chatting away, and he kept saying to me, I'm going to scare you. And I said, you can't scare me. And he was like, watch, I'm going to scare you. And it was just at that point I said, because I just remembered, and I said, oh, Joe, can you tell me if there is a staircase here that has a doorway at the bottom and a doorway at the top? And I just remember him saying to me, no, I can't recall that. And then out of nowhere, and I actually thought this was Phil, out of nowhere, this human voice said to me, I told you that, as clear as day. And I do have it on the voice recorder. And unfortunately, with everything that's been going on this past day or two, I haven't actually uploaded it, but I will upload it.
Yeah, it's really good. It sounds like there's someone there, and it was so clear.
Yeah.
But I think when you went there, they knew you were new. They knew you were a beacon, and they were trying to mess with you.
Yeah.
And it shook us all up a little bit, but we still stayed. You know what I mean? Nice try, basically, to scare us. But that's why we do this stuff, for those experiences. And that's why we keep wanting to do more and more and see what else we can find.
Yeah.
Because that stuff, it's rare to have someone that you're connecting with actually speak out loud. You usually have to go over your evidence but it was there. It was there, and it doesn't surprise me at all with that place.
What was really funny about it, though, is Joe actually said he couldn't recall that. And obviously they'd done tours of the building God knows how many times. And then Marley actually took me to the main entrance, or what I thought was a main entrance, but it was a big walkway. And lo and behold, there the staircase was. And I remember taking a picture of it and saying, that is exactly what I've seen. And you can actually see the light blue paint that's peeling off the wall, and you can see the orange behind it. And there is just no way that is documented anywhere.
No, there was no way you would have been able to read up on that, see that at any show. Unless you're there, you'd have to see it. I mean, no one's wrote about it anywhere, as far as I know. So again, that just validated what you were feeling, what you were seeing before you even came over to the States. I remember you talking to me about it, and I said, I'm not going to tell you anything because I know you don't like doing it. I never give you any history when we talk about stuff like that.
No.
But you were validating so much. We were there, hour or two, I think, maybe?
Yeah, it wasn't that long, really. But in the hour or two that I was there, I remember coming out with names like Agatha and a Robert as well. And it was Robert. I think it was Robert, actually. I can't really remember now because it was last year. But I think it was Robert who actually told me about the doorway. And it was his voice who came through and said, I told you that. But what validated it even more for me is that the next day, because we'd gone to the historical village, Brenda very kindly gave me a book, didn't she? And I was reading up on that the next day, and I was absolutely amazed, because the gentleman that came to me in this dream and told me about that staircase was actually one of the doctors who was pictured on one of the pages. And when I looked through, I recognized him instantly, and I read through, and it said his name was Robert. And I was shocked. And then I looked through a bit more, and there was a nurse there actually called Agatha as well. And it's just reading up through those history books after, and I was absolutely amazed.
Yeah, I remember when you were sitting there, we were talking about it, and then were looking through the book, and you had found those names, and it just all made sense then. And I think, we actually have a couple spirit boxes or ghost boxes. One's a geo box built by Jeff Brown and Jeff Fent. The wood's actually from Eloise. So it's Eloise Psychiatric Hospital Edition. It's very rare. I think ours is the only one made. But we went to a farm that's supposed to be haunted the first time we used this box. And we were getting voices that were doctors and patients and nurses, because it was an Eloise wood, had Eloise wood. All the energy was still retained into that wood. And we have another one that we use too. And it's wherever we're at, you still pick up Eloise. The energy at that place is so strong. It blows me away. And Joe and Tanya and Marley, they're great people. I think they do the tours there. And they've had plenty of experiences, but the experiences I've had there, I can't explain. I love that place. It's where I had my first paranormal experience. I'll always love that place. Hopefully it can be saved. Who knows what the future holds for it, but it's one of the most haunted places I've ever been to. And, we've got shadow figure pictures, and we've got a lot of EVPs out of there, videos of shadows moving. And it does not disappoint. That place does not disappoint. And it's kind of a sadness to it. You kind of feel bad for a lot of those lost souls that still roam the halls of Eloise.
So what's your most memorable experience that you've had at the Eloise?
Well, it was the first night we investigated there. And this is on our YouTube channel also. So you can kind of look at it. We had we had static cameras running in the 3rd floor. And it was around 2:30 in the morning, and we were getting tired. And I had just sat down. There's about 4 of us. I sat down in one of the hallways, and we were talking. And so I got on my phone and started doing Facebook. And I really got into Facebook, and I look up, everyone's gone. So I go back into the main ward where the beds and patients would have been, and we were live streaming it. So we had a monitor and cameras were running on that floor. So I started talking to the people, answering questions on Facebook, and I started hearing noise in the back behind me. And I could feel the energy. I'm not psychic, or I don't have abilities, but I think doing this so much, doing hundreds and hundreds of investigations, I'm kind of in tune with my intuition now. I think everybody has that, so I kind of trust my instincts. And I could feel that energy coming. It kept coming closer and closer. And you remember how big those wards were. They were a good 100 feet away to the front door. So I shot my flashlight, and I thought in my head, I tried to rationalize this because I was getting a little scared that it was Jeff and those guys had snuck back in and were trying to scare me. And I kind of went back and was talking to people again because it made me feel comfortable, like someone was there, because I was talking to people on Facebook, even though no one was there except me. And it did it again. It came closer and closer. You could see me shine the flashlight. So I go, this is it. I'm done. And I went out. You can see me on the cameras, walk out. I go outside. Everybody's outside. There's no one in the building. So I grabbed them. I said, you guys got to come up here. There is something up here moving around. So during that time, we were running audio. And you can hear after I leave, and you can't see anything on the cameras. We had cameras everywhere. The shower curtains in the patient shower is moving back and forth. You can hear desks opening and closing. And for a good 5 minutes, it's movement and sounds and footsteps. And you know how paranormal experiences or evidence is pretty subtle? You have to like listen over and over.
Yeah.
This is pretty drastic. Like you can hear everything going on. And there's not a single person in that building.
That's madness, isn't it?
It is. And that was my first ever really paranormal experience at Eloise.
So what is your scariest one? Because everybody has one.
Oh, we just had one last weekend at a place called Bruce Mansion. I've had a couple where, I mean, I've done this a lot. I don't get scared. I don't want people to think, oh, he's a scaredy. I'm still human. I mean,
we weren't scared, though.
You still have your natural instincts kick in sometimes, you know? So there's one that was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There's one in Michigan called the Bruce Mansion. It was built in 1876. And a guy had reached out to a friend of ours and said, it hasn't been used in a long time for paranormal exploration. People live there. This guy just bought it, him and his wife. So we go there, and we're getting ready to leave. We had a lot of things going on. We're getting ready to leave, and it's pitch black, and there's about 5 or 6 of us, and Brandy was with us, and she goes, Matt, who was with us, said, who's next to you? And he goes, and we couldn't see. You can only see shadows. You know, it was dark like that. And he reached out and goes, no one. And instantly, like Jeff stepped forward. The shadow, whatever it was, came towards Jeff. Brandy screamed and ran behind me, and then Jen, that's on our team, like screamed. She got really upset, and I saw this thing turn by Jeff, go back out the door, back to the main lobby, and up the stairs. So we said, we're gonna stay. We're gonna ready to leave, so we're gonna stay. So we went upstairs, and we're just waiting and listening for stuff to happen. We heard something fall downstairs, walking, and I looked down, and I seen a shadow figure walk by the bottom of the staircase to the parlor, and then it came back and kept peeking around the corner. And I said, are you guys, and then there was 4 of the people that saw this. Of course, we didn't have any video going at the time. That's what usually happens. But I was able to validate it because sometimes you think, I'm going crazy. Am I really seeing this? Because your mind can play tricks on you. Yeah. And 4 of us saw that thing poke back and forth. And its eyes it was so strange because the eyes looked like reflectors. It was like a bluish white. So when we turned all the lights on, there was nothing except the white wall. There was no lights inside the house. So I can't explain it, but it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So my instincts were kicking in. Like there's some, I don't want to say danger, but there's something not right going on. And you've had that happen, I'm sure, before. The hairs on your arm stick up, the hair on the back of your neck. And I haven't had that feeling in a long, long time. And I told those guys, this is what makes me want to keep doing the paranormal. When you have these experiences where I was like jittery, like my hands are shaking. I mean, the way I made it sound, it doesn't sound that bad, but you had to be in that moment. Like the moment was intense. Like everyone could feel the heaviness and the energy just changed. Yeah. And then all those shadow figures started coming out from all over the place. So We're going to go back and investigate that November 7th again, because I didn't get enough. And I think other people want to go back and see exactly if we could find what it was, maybe get it on camera. We were getting some good EVPs. We did do a live from there, and we got a lot of things talking through the spirit box or ghost box.
Oh, well, if you happen to go live again, just stick a link on my Facebook page, because I'm sure people would love to know if you're going to go live from there, because we love the American, ghost walks and lives and things like that. And I'm sure you guys love it when we all do it over here as well.
So, next time you come over, we didn't get to take you to the precinct. I think we both got sick. That was just a weird time. I mean, we had a good time up until New Year's Eve, and then the next day it was like we were all hurting.
I think that would be the fireball stuff that we were drinking.
It probably had something to do with it, yeah. But I want to take you to the precinct. The 6th precinct in Detroit is probably the most haunted place I've been to before, too. A lot of tragedy happened there. And then this Bruce Mansion, you definitely want to check this out. It's huge. It's a massive mansion. The people committed suicide in there. It just has a long, for whatever reason, dark history there.
Yeah. But also, we visited the Whitney Mansion, didn't we?
Yes, we went to the Whitney. And that used to be owned by David Whitney, who was a lumber baron, a big shot in Detroit back in the late 1800s. He had this house built in 1900, and he actually died in 1905, so we didn't get to enjoy it too much. And then it kind of turned hands. It was a nursing facility, and then it sat vacant for a few years, and now it's a restaurant, the Whitney Restaurant in Detroit. And they actually have paranormal tours there. And we had a pretty good experience there, too, in the carriage house in the back. David Whitney's daughter, we think, we could hear this in the moment humming. It was a woman humming a song, and it sounded like an old song. And she used to go to France a lot and travel, but she liked to have her tea in the carriage house for some reason. So back in the 1950s, the Nursing Association moved the table out of the carriage house, and all this crazy paranormal activity started happening. And back in the 50s, obviously, it wasn't known or well known of ghosts or everything like that. So they put the table back. It's still there to this day, and nothing happened bad to people. You still hear her hum, and she'll move stuff around, but I think she got upset because they took her tea table away. That was kind of her favorite place to hang out and get away from her family and just have alone time. Yeah. Their family is buried at Woodmere Cemetery in Detroit. They have a mausoleum, and we actually visited that over the summer. And that place is pretty haunted, and there's a lot of history behind that too.
Detroit anyway is rich in history, isn't it? Obviously we think about the American history not being as rich as the UK history, but it is rich in its own history, isn't it?
It is, and we don't go back as far as 400 or 500 or 600-year-old places you guys get to investigate. Some places are a few hundred years old, but it has a lot of history. It was the car industry was booming. Detroit was a booming city, and it was the growth of that. One of the bigger cities in America, and then it kind of went through a downturn for a long, long time, and it's picking up again. But there's a lot of the old buildings are still there, the old theaters. Houdini did his last show here. He died in Detroit on Halloween night, actually. So the funeral home that he was taken to is still there. We're working on investigating that soon. The theater is still up that he did his last performance at. So there's a lot of crazy history, too, of famous people that have met their end here in Detroit. But we love it because there's so many places to investigate. We never run out of places to investigate.
No. And I just want to go back to the 6th precinct, because you do an awful lot of investigations there, don't you?
Yeah, a friend of mine bought that. I think it was in 2016 was our first time there. Phil, who you met, was friends with the owner too, so it kind of tied us together. We did some investigations there, and I've had some crazy things happen, like things thrown at me. There's a whistler in the base in the jail cell block area that you could hear whistling every now and then. Women seem to get touched a lot, their hair played with or their leg touched in the cell block area. There's been a lot of suicides there, and I've had, I felt something at the door slam, and I felt again, energy come towards me. And I ducked down actually, because I felt it was going to hit me like full force. Not with a fist or anything, but just the energy was coming towards me that fast. They actually pushed open a heavy steel door. So I had that much strength. I had that much energy to come towards me. I ducked down, kind of closed my eye and kept one eye open, but nothing happened. I could feel it. Again, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and that was in the basement by the shooting range. So went back upstairs and got away from it. But it happens quite a bit there. But it's what we love. I love places like that. And Ed's trying to restore it. So we're helping, raise money for the restoration of it, because Michigan's kind of bad preserving history. They rather knock the old building down and make a parking lot or new condos or houses. And that's why a lot of the there's 10 asylums in Michigan at one time. Huge, massive, beautiful asylums, and they're all pretty much tore down. Except there's one in Traverse City. So next time if you come, we'll go up to Traverse City. There's one that they've turned into like condos and shops, and it's really, really cool what they've done to it. But they saved it. And then, in the UK, you guys preserve your history and save it. Even Ohio, you go down to Ohio, they really are keen on saving their history too, historical buildings. So we're working to fight to save a lot of these buildings in Michigan. Hopefully we make a difference.
Yeah. And it's good, though, that you're raising the awareness of these historic buildings as well, isn't it? Because it doesn't just preserve it for our generation, it's the generations to follow.
Right. I'm trying to teach my kids to appreciate history. I think when I was younger, I didn't really care about history. Obviously, you're just not thinking about. When I got older and went through college and stuff like that, I really, really started to love history. So when we do these locations, we always do a lot of research, find out as much. And it's fun because you go back, you find things that you never knew happened in your home state or where you're from. But I try to teach my kids to appreciate history, because once it's gone, it's gone. You're never going to be able to see it again. You're never going to be able to go into it again. You can just read about it. And that's what's sad, when a lot of these places can be saved that aren't.
Yeah. And it's madness, really, isn't it? When we go on paranormal investigations at these historic sites, that our technology from now actually picks up the voices of spirits from yesteryear. Now, I know you mentioned that you have an Eloise Geoport, but what is your most favorite piece of equipment apart from that?
I tell people we have all the REM pods, geo boxes. We have probably 8 or 9 spirit or geo boxes or ghost boxes built from different developers. There's not a lot in the world. There's maybe a handful worldwide that build these boxes. And you can't just go to like a Paranormal or Us and buy, go shopping for a bunch of paranormal equipment, because it just doesn't exist. It's people like us that are a little more handy that can build these things. But I'm old school. Just give me a digital recorder and a flashlight and I'm good to go. I do like the geo boxes and the ghost boxes and spirit boxes. It amazes me sometimes the voices and communication go back and forth that come through there. I'm not for sure how that works. I think it's, they say white noise and radio frequencies enable the spirits to talk sometimes. And some of the stuff I even think, and they always say my name. I don't know why. I don't know. A lot of people tell me because they're used to me, and they know my name. So no matter where we're at, they'll say my name. And it could be a different person, female, male, or whatever, child. And I think they trust me, maybe. I have no idea really.
Do you think that might be, obviously, whenever you go to an investigation like that and they always say your name, do you not think that might be one of your spirit guides just protecting you?
It could be, and I'm thinking about that more. But the only thing is that the voices change. It's not always the same voice. And I don't know if it's because I do this so much. They know. I haven't had anything negative said to me. I mean, sometimes they say F you to me or whatever. I think could be an angry person maybe. But it just, even we were at the precinct last Saturday, and I thought maybe something had followed us from the Bruce Mansion, because I didn't feel good like the next couple days. None of us did really. And I actually said, is anyone from the Bruce Mansion following us? And it did say Bruce a couple times. And we were at the precinct, and there's no way that can come through unless it was something following us. And I feel better now. I don't think it was a strong energy that kind of followed me home, but I think it could be something protecting me, looking out for me. Because usually they're positive voices and they'll communicate, talk to me back and forth, which is bizarre. I mean, I tell people that it still blows my mind that happens, even though I've done this for years and years and years, that it's still crazy in a sense that you can actually communicate. Who knows what we're communicating with?
Exactly.
I don't know if it's a ghost. I don't know what it is. People say it could be aliens. Some people say it's a parallel universe. But we do get communication, and it still just amazes me. And again, I think that's what keeps me going. As long as I keep having fun and keep questioning what is going on around us, and the evidence keeps building up and the experiences keep building up, I'm going to do this for as long as I can.
Yeah. And I think that's what, I appreciate as well is, I love public events. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy going to them. I enjoy doing the medium walk around, but I equally love doing the private investigations, with just the team, because you know that you can trust those people implicitly, don't you?
Right.
You know that they're not going to fake any activity, and they are going to be 100% behind any evidence that you capture, and there'll be no questions asked. You know, your team, you've got a medium on your team named Brandy, and you've obviously got Jeff as well. Have you got some more members of your team who you solely rely on when you go to these investigations?
And I think that is key for, because our core of our group is the original. We started 4 years ago, Detroit Paranormal Expeditions. We've added a few people here and there, but I think you still have to trust these people to do what you're doing. And I think for us, I know a lot of teams don't use a psychic medium or have a psychic medium, and I think that's so key because you're talking about tools that you use, and I think Brandy is the best tool we have. You know, because she can pick up stuff, and it blows me away because, you know, when we do a public event, she can pick up stuff from people's families, and she go up to a total stranger and say, "I'm picking this up." I've seen her make people cry.
Yeah,
like, you know, from their mother or their dad or their brother or sister, and there's no way she knows that stuff. She doesn't even know these people, and she's spot on with names and like get a message across. And I think a lot of times, loved ones that pass on are sometimes just trying to find a way to get a message to their family members. You know, and even when we do the paranormal stuff, if there's a way for us to help them get a message over, we do that too. We ask, do you need to get a message? Do you have a message for someone? I think that helps people. And I think a lot of the times, this is just my own theory, that hauntings aren't necessarily bad, but I think it's loved ones try and connect with, you know, their wives or husbands that are left behind, and people that are married for 50, 60 years, which I'm divorced. I don't know if it even happens like that anymore. But there are people that are older that have been married for a long time. They lose their loved one, and you know that this paranormal activity happens. So we'll go and talk to them. We'll find out it's just their husband or wife, letting them know they're okay. They don't have to worry anymore. They're fine. They're in a good place. And those things are very satisfying. And it's another reason why we do this, to really help people, even if it's just a message, just to get a message from their loved one.
But it's so true though, isn't it? If you have a medium on your team, it's, you know, you're gaining information that you wouldn't necessarily have had access to. Like you say, you know, I pick up on people's emotions, and you know, when we've been on investigations previously, you do see things, and chances are if there are members of the public there, you are going to pick up on them as well, because they're giving off as much energy as the building as well. So I've spoke to Brandy a couple of times, and she is phenomenal at what she does. And, you know, it's great. I just think being part of a medium, well, being part of a team, as well as having a medium on there, I do think it's great. So I've just got a couple of questions for you. Now, Lee asked, do you ever custom make your live stream cameras for anybody else?
Actually, I've got obsessed with making live streaming setup. So what I use is GoPros. They're hacked or modified GoPros, and I keep changing them because no one can build. There's not a place to learn how to build these. You have to learn on your own. Just like with paranormal equipment, it's just experimenting, and I've wasted a lot of money on some of the stuff that I've done. But I do build them. I can build them custom. They are pricey. It just depends on what camera you want. I always go with GoPro. They're the best for live streaming. And then the lenses are kind of expensive to get those full spectrum lenses. We use deadlights and we use ghost light. Deadlight's probably the best that we use. Josh makes those handmade, so you have to put your order in. It took me like 7 months to get mine. But they're hands down the best, and they light up anywhere that's dark to make them light. But we use a thing called a webcaster that streams live to Facebook. So we're mobile. I can actually show you. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, brilliant.
But here's one of the setups. And then I have a smaller version that's a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. But I have monitors on them all, so you kind of watch your stream as you go. You can adjust the lighting as you go. But I've had to play with different mics. I tried to make them authentic. So when we are doing the live streams, people can kind of participate with us. So the better microphones and audio you have, people have actually sent us clips of our own live streams of EVPs or shadow figures or things that are kind of odd that we couldn't see in the moment, but we'll go back and listen to it. And so that keeps, I think it makes it fun for people watching the live stream also, because it makes it feel like you're there with us.
Well, that's the beauty of the live streams, isn't it? Because 9 times out of 10, you're focusing on something totally different. You're trying to see what's in front of you. You're trying to listen to a spirit box, or, you know, or make sure you've got a voice recording. But when the members of the public are at home watching this on Facebook or YouTube or whatever medium or platform anybody uses, it's always great that somebody comes back and says, oh, I think you might have captured this, and then sends it to you. And you're like, how on earth did I miss that?
It makes it easier on us because reviewing evidence is the worst.
Yeah.
Because, when you have digital recorders, you might have 4 out and you might be there for 4 hours. Well, you got 4 hours in each digital recorder. So that's really, 12, 13 hours of audio you have to listen to. And then you have to go over the video. You might stare a video of a static camera that's there set for 7 hours of nothing, so it's mind numbing sometimes. So it kind of makes it easier when people will do it for us in the moment. We appreciate it. But, we try to make get the best cameras to make it the clearest possible, sound the best. And it's hard. You have to, because like I said, there's not a paranormal store you can run into and just grab a bunch of stuff, so you kind of got to make it yourself and kind of tinker with it and experiment with it until you find something you really like. Just a trial and error thing, but I'm starting to get really good at it, I think.
Yeah, it seems like you've got a great setup as well there. But SJ Smith wants to know, has anything ever followed you home?
Yes, actually, and unfortunately. And I think you had called me or messaged me one time. You had felt something on me, and you weren't the only one. There's 4 or 5 different people from all over the world that were saying something's attached to you. And I was feeling awful. I was feeling withdrawn, depressed, kind of. I actually thought I was going to quit the paranormal. I had those kind of thoughts, like I just didn't want to do this anymore. And it wasn't me. It's not the way I felt, but I had taken something home from Randolph County Infirmary in Indiana, and it affected me terribly. I didn't realize it at first. It took weeks before it kind of wore me down. But, a lot of different people had told me it was a bad person, a bad man that had killed people. But it was really what I was feeling was the way it was explained to me. I was feeling what he feels. He was like putting his energy and taking my energy, but I was feeling his energy. That's why I was kind of withdrawn. Didn't want to talk to a lot of people. So I did a bunch of stuff. I saged my house. I still wear my protection on me at all times. Now, when I first started, I had that ego or that macho feeling like I don't need any hematite. I don't need any protection on me, any stones whatsoever. And I paid the price pretty much. It finally went away when I did a bunch of different things, but it does happen. I think people don't really realize those are kind of the side effects, the negative things that can happen to you doing the paranormal stuff. You can get attachments. It's not really hard, especially if you open yourself up to this. You're leaving yourself open. But now
and it's sad, really, isn't it, that some people, because I know when we do events, we say to people, we do offer that protection and we do offer to close everything down. So at the end of the evening, nothing happens to follow you home. Now, do you do that as a team when you do your public events?
Yeah, we talk about it because people ask questions about this stuff. So we usually sage. We actually have a sage spray now that I use all the time. It's a little more convenient than lighting sage. It actually smells better than sage being burnt. But at the Bruce Mansion, Brandy saged all of us before we left. And that's why I think the energy that we had from there wasn't as strong. It lasted a couple of days. I don't even know if anything did follow us. I felt off for a couple of days. But yeah, you have to kind of inform the public and they kind of know now because it's, they watch the TV shows and they'll read our blogs and stuff. So they kind of ask more questions now than they ever had before. And you just have to tell them, just be careful. But you see people, and we don't do this, provoke entities. And I treat them, I think to myself that they were humans at one time. So when you go into a location, if it's their house or a place they stayed at, say even a prison or a hospital, go in there with respect. Treat them with respect. Just like if someone's coming into your house, you know what I mean? You want to be treated with respect and not demanded and told what to do. And you have to treat the buildings with respect, I think. And I believe that's why we get so good results. I'm not saying, but it seems like everywhere we go, we get some kind of evidence. And it's been pretty amazing. I mean, there's places you go to, as you know, you go for 8 hours, you get nothing, absolutely nothing. But there's other places you go, as soon as you walk in a place, you're getting stuff one right after the other.
And that's the thing, though, isn't it? When you see people, I mean, people aren't usually necessarily born evil as we'd like to expect, but if they've done bad things, then do you think that that might warrant some provocation?
There's been times, and I think if you do look at like these spirits energies are human, you're gonna have good people in life and you're gonna have bad people, and I don't think that changes when you go on the other side. If you're a bad person in real life, you're gonna be bad on the other side too. But I think, you know, if they are bad, then obviously you tell them stay away, don't follow. And there's a lot of times, especially on our public events, we talk to the spirits through the boxes or, you know, through other devices. We always tell them you have to stay here. We're just here to visit. You can't go home with anyone. You have to stay here. And then we do a little bit of saging and stuff like that. But
I think it's the more responsible way of going about ghost hunting, though, isn't it?
I think so too. You have to be respectful. There's really no reason to provoke unless you do get a negative or bad energy that is messing with you or one of your teammates or one of your guests. Then obviously you have to say, you know, stop. You're not going to do this, and kind of banish if you can. Who knows if we really can? But you try to put that energy from you or whoever else to banish that thing away. We've never had anything demonic ever. I'm glad we haven't, because I don't think I want to mess with anything demonic. I mean, things that are really demonic could really wreak havoc in your life, you know?
Yeah, they do.
But it's very, very, very rare. From what I'm reading, you know, through the Catholics still teach exorcism classes and stuff in Italy once a year. So it's obviously happens throughout the world, but I think it's so rare. And you just do see a lot of TV shows that kind of, oh, that was demonic. And I just don't believe that, because in my experience, I've done a lot of those places they do. I've done a lot of places no one's ever done before. Mm-hmm. I've came against bad energies before, but I think those are bad people.
Yeah.
Nothing demonic where your head spins or anything like that. But it can happen. It can happen.
Kelly wants to know, is there somewhere you haven't been that you would love to investigate? Now, I know you want to come to the UK.
Yeah, I want to come to the UK. I'd love to do a lot in England, Scotland, Ireland. Next year, if the virus or whatever is done, hopefully I can come over and stay a couple of weeks in Europe and UK and just really go, because we're really scratching the surface here in America. I mean, there's so many places around the world that are haunted. It's not just here. The only place in America I really, really would love to do is probably Alcatraz. Like do an overnight investigation there on the island, the prison. It's rumored to be haunted, but I think that'd be really, really cool. Most of the big places in America I've been to. We travel across the United States. This year it's been a little bit hampered because of the virus, but we find all these different locations in Michigan even that are new. Beaver Island was another one that I didn't even know existed in Michigan. It's a city in Michigan. It's on an island that had a lot of energy, and it was very, very haunted. So you just have to keep finding those places, you know, and keep pushing and exploring. It's really just exploration, honestly. And I always take pride in going to places that haven't been done before, or be the first ones to do it, because I think it seems like the energy is more active the first time it's ever been investigated. So I think a lot of those energies want to talk, and they don't have anyone to talk to. And we're actually coming in there and saying, hey, talk to us. And we seem like we get a lot of activity that way.
It is amazing, though, isn't it, when you have a property that's never been done, and they just come out, don't they, for fun, and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. And then, you know, do you think that places that have been done over and over again, do you think that the energy kind of dilutes on them?
I think it does, but I also think people that come in these places bring energy in also.
Okay.
Because there's times you don't know what other people do in their private life when they come in here, what they mess with. You don't know if they have attachments with them. I think when you have big groups coming to public events, as you don't know these people at all. You know, you don't know what they're bringing in. You don't know what kind of energy they're putting forward. And I think that still keeps it going. But like Waverly Hills and Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum and even Eloise, we took 12,000 people through Eloise on tours. So,
wow.
But I think those energies that are at Eloise feed off people coming in, because we had a lot of people that would come to us. My phone went dead. It was a charge. I mean, total didn't know what to do. My cameras die. So I think they feed off that energy also. So I don't know. It's so hard to. It's still the unknown, and that's why I love doing this, because there's so many questions still. We don't know anything honestly, just on our own evidence that we can communicate with whatever's on the other side. Um, but it just you want to keep going and exploring and find more until I just want to sit down with a ghost face to face and have a conversation for an hour. You know what I mean?
It
But
would be cool, wouldn't it, if you could
yeah,
just get something like that. Now, obviously, we're time's passing on, but Maureen wants to know, what about the UK? Where would your most favourite location have to be in the UK that you know of?
it just seems to me, just from seeing on TV, like London would have a lot of haunted places, and I don't know if how big ghost hunting is in London itself, if it's allowed. I don't know if it's off limits. I know a lot of places aren't, but I'd like to explore London. It seems like there would be a lot of places in London. And you had told me about a place, was it the Ram Inn?
Yes, the ancient ram.
And I think I would love to do that one because that's super, super old.
Uh-huh.
But that's the things I wanted, because there's history in the United States, but it's not that old. You know what I mean? But you go over to England and you're talking centuries. A building's still there, still up.
Yeah.
The end, it's crazy that's been up for that long.
Yeah, we have fields that date back to the 1400s and things like that. So it's fantastic for history over here, but there's so many places that we could investigate that aren't publicized on TV shows or anything like that, which would be amazing.
Right. And a lot of TV shows, they don't exploit, but they go to a lot of these well-known places. But I think the ones that are more haunted are the ones that less known, that people don't know about, that we found, like you found or I found.
Yeah.
But I love the TV shows. I love doing TV shows. I love being able to talk about my experiences, just to tell my story. I love talking about the paranormal. I absolutely love it. It's a part of my life. I have a passion for it, and it's kind of like a lifestyle now. It started as a hobby, but it's what it is now. It's part of my life.
It is, though, isn't it? It's kind of, when even though you start into this journey, so to speak, it's always at the forefront, isn't it? People always want to talk about it. They always want to know what's happening next. So with you, what is coming up next?
We're doing tours of the 6th Precinct. They've unfortunately sold out for the rest of the month. And then we're going to a new place we've never investigated before. It's called the Ford Piquet Factory Museum. Yeah. It's actually Henry Ford. They made the first Model T at this place. So it's reported to be haunted. It's huge. It's like 80,000 square feet. So we're going to do that on Halloween night.
Wow.
And then we're doing a place that we found called the Huron River Inn. It was like a old inn by the train depot, where they, from old school days, late 1800s to early 1900s. They said it was a brothel at one time. A lot of gambling went on there, but the upstairs looks like it was set in the 1800s still. So we got a lot of crazy experiences there, but we're going to do that November 1st. And then obviously go back to the Bruce Mansion on November 7th.
Okay, that's amazing. And have you got any more TV stints coming up?
Fright Club with Jack Osborne and the Ghost Brothers.
Oh,
and I think that will come out end of December, early January. And then Paranormal Caught on Camera, they're filming their new season now, so I'm going to be on that too for an episode. But yeah, they keep coming back to me. We're lucky enough to have evidence and things to talk about, and I enjoy it. Some people don't like it, think TV's fake, but I know I'm not fake. I'm not faking anything, but I love telling my stories. If people can hear the stories or hear about these locations they never knew about, I think it helps, even like Ed, who owns the 6th Precinct, it helps awareness to his place because he's trying to save it. Exactly. He's putting every dime he gets to save this building. And that's what you appreciate, people that own these locations that put all the money back into them to make them nice for people to investigate, to save them so they don't get hit by the wrecking ball. So I think that helps too. When you're on TV, you're able to talk about cool locations that people don't know about.
Yeah. And it's also good to give something back, isn't it? So, like we've done this festival to give something back to everybody who's going through a hard time with COVID at the moment. And, it's a free online event, and people, they keep praising us for it. And it's kind of like, we don't want the praise. We just want to bring everybody together. And that's why we did it, is just to make sure that everybody had something, and people might not necessarily know, who some of the people are on here, but it's great to get that awareness out. But where can our viewers find you?
You can go to our website, DetroitParanormalExpeditions.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and I think we even have Snapchat. I don't know how to run that, but I think we do have Snapchat. Yeah, we're pretty much, you can find us everywhere.
Yeah, that's great. So guys, if you want to watch some of the live streams that Todd and Detroit Paranormal Expeditions do, please go and check out. We'll put all the links in the comments after this stream so that you can go and have a look. But Todd, it's been fantastic speaking to you. And as always, I will probably speak to you in the week. And hopefully, you know, one day next year, then you can come over and we can go investigate in some of my favorite places.
Yes, then you can come back over here again too, because I don't think we had enough time to go
No.
to the places here. But yeah.
And I think we need to bring Mark this time as well, because he's a very big skeptic and he says he doesn't get scared about anything. So
we'll see about that. I love skeptics.
I would really love for him to experience something anyway. But I think, you know, thank you so much to you. Love to all of the rest of the team, your mom, Jody, you know, Cody, Brooke, and little man as well. And I hope Brooke has a fantastic homecoming dance as well. And she looks absolutely stunning. But you go off and take some pictures and make some more memories.
I will, Joe. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. So there you have it, guys. That's Todd from Paranormal Detroit Expeditions. And if you guys want to follow him at all, then you can do. We'll put the links and everything below. But stay tuned. Unfortunately, we've got a full roundup now. We did have a scheduled live with somebody, but unfortunately they've had to cancel last minute, which unfortunately when it is live like this, then we have to sometimes go to plan B. So so this is what's going to happen. So plan B is going to be a roundup of today and what your thoughts are about the festival and what you want to happen in the future, because it doesn't end here. It continues through the night, right through to 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And we've got some amazing guests coming tomorrow, so you definitely don't want to miss out. So apart from that, I think you will be seeing me quite shortly. But I just want to thank everybody in the chat room for commenting and with their questions. But, you know, if you haven't already, please go to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe and share these videos, because it's a para-unity event, which means that we want to bring everybody together. So if you could do that, then, you know, just let's show everybody the love in the paranormal community. But thank you so much all for watching, and I will speak to you all very soon. Take care.